It is September 19th, 2022. I am in this flag pattern, and I went this morning. I was supposed to go last night, but after Benjamin left, and Daniel and his girlfriend, after they left, I was so tired. It takes like mental fortitude and work to go as a patient to the local hospitals. I just didn't have it in me. I needed a good night's rest, so I passed out. I woke up. I had responsibilities of getting Nucci to school, which I did. And then I asked Lewis to drive me directly to the hospital, which I did. So I went to St. Francis, and while I was there, I looked around the foyer or the vestibule or the entryway before you go in through triage into the emergency room. And they have listed like a Newsday article, something referencing St. Francis being LI, like a survey, something like that. And then they had an angel with her wings, and she's kind of just like hugging her knees. And then there's a cross, a Christian cross, which is the T formation. It's not a crucifix of an X, but it's a T. So anyhow, um, that's all in the front foyer, and then it says something about magnetism. I took note of it and put it on for a continuation of the outpatient and the continuity of the inpatient services when you actually go to the hospital, since it seems to be a matter of the heart, since they're known as the heart hospital, just so apparent, and their lifelong participation is whatever and whatever. I'm not quite sure where the layover is or where my protection lies in strength, and not knowing what hand to hold or what hand is out to harm me. So anyhow, so I go, I'm in by shortly before 9, I think, and then they let me out by 11. This is the next set of papers. Now, while I'm in there, in the hospital, the nurse, there's an action plan of patient care that's queued up. Certain tests, he went over all of the tests that were ordered. The reason, like, he didn't go into explicit detail, but he used medical words that I, having gone to studies, am still aware of that exist, and the definition of them. Otherwise, I would have asked for definition. So he used a word like sepsis. So I knew what that meant. Fortunate enough to know what that means. So so we go through that. There's a couple of sticks that have to go on, and they were going to set up an IV. I'm like, or I don't know, that maybe there's a question about that, whatever. I'm like, all right. Didn't quite understand why they had to take 2 out of one arm and then 2 out of the other, but that's what the nurse mentioned, that they had to break it up with sticks of the needle in the arm, which again doesn't logically, it just doesn't make sense. But whatever the procedure was, that's what it was to be. So then the emergency room doctor comes over, and I won't hold his name against him. Honestly, I had no, I don't like the humans that I ordinarily bump into. They've set the bar so low on standard of operative care in making my journey to this world, from birth, infancy, to adulthood so tragically arduous that I always am in receivership of I err on the side of caution for myself, but I'm always cautiously optimistic that they're going to step up to the plate and hit a home run. I am. I'm rooting that one day they're going to turn this around as a species and they're going to perform the way that the ancestors gifted them this opportunity in America for however that happened in peace treaties amongst warring civilizations in a war den. Um, um, so anyhow, I had to remind myself, my son sitting next to me and a child across the table in the basement with my eyes burning from something that was going through the air on Sunday. I was like, you know what? Because they were like, well, what? Like, one of them was like, my mom's warden. And I said, well, you gotta go spell that one. I was like, it's broken a war and den. And you know what a den is? In the animal kingdom, that's where the mothers take the cubs into the den, and that's where she protects them from whatever's going on that might try to prey on them. So I was like, you got to keep that in mind. So anyhow, so here I am. The doctor comes over, and the doctor decides to cancel some of the itemized standard of care that was already ordered and issued, and the nurse and I went over. He's the emergency room, whatever. He walked away. I found him very dismissive and slightly arrogant, not like really bad. I've met some really arrogant folks, not too many in my life frame, but I have, and I've seen them also in interviews. So again, but there was this arrogant air, but a very mild case of it, at least with my being there. So he decided to cancel the septic blood cultures, and I didn't say anything. I thought on it, and then there was two nurses. Second nurse, I said to her, I said, could you come here for a second? I said, could you do me a favor? I said, I'm really not comfortable with what he just did with canceling some of the care and some of the diagnostic tests. I truly believe that what he canceled was something of such significance that I really need. I said, would you do me a favor? Would you please go over and voice my concern to him and ask him to change his mind and put the tests back on and allow you to take the cultures for the septic diagnostic tests that I feel I need that were originally there, and then that he took off of the order. So she said yes. So she went away. So she went over. Now, this doctor came over, and I'm trying to explain to him it's a nephrology, renal, chemistry issue there, and he keeps arrogantly insinuating that it's a gynecological issue for which they don't treat. And I'm like, this is where I'm like at wit's end. I'm like, I understand. I said, I don't really want a gynecological exam. I'm telling you, there's a slight change. I've already had it biopsied. I'm here not necessarily for that. I said, but there is, in the perineum, there is some form of, like, it smells like ammonia. It's very potent, and then it burns. I was like, it's not in it's on like the urethra or any of those anatomical parts of this urology system. I know it's not gynecological. I'm telling you, it's renal, and I need it to be treated as primary renal function concern. And just a secondary is that on the external is that's where I noticed the symptoms, but it's really more of like an internal. So he said, again, he says, I'm going to have to refer you out to a urologist because it's not what we do here. And he's like, the emergency room is for just that, an emergency. I'm like, I wouldn't be here if it wasn't emergency, in that it is such a dangerous consistency of UA, possibly UTI, and I want to make sure my kidney function is okay. I said, subsequent to that, I had 2 months ago, I had a hematological, and I'm following up with Dr. Trotta from this hospital for oncology. I was like, so I also just want to make sure and make you aware of the whole systemic, what I've been through, because I don't know if there's a variable issue in there. So that's when he went and he took out the septic tests. And so anyway, so he would not add them back. So I made note of it while I was there on video. I documented it. I then waited. He said he was going to give me one set of antibiotic treatments because I'm allergic to penicillin. I told him that, like, throughout my medical whatever here as a patient only, they've given me something, a different, like the 10% that can take something else. So I mentioned to him the specific name, which I'm not saying on open, whatever, for whatever. And so he wound up changing it to whatever for that reason. So I'm just like, okay. And then the nurse came over. The nurse gave me an intravenous of antibiotics first. So now I know something's going on, but the doctor did not specify what was going on, what my results that came back, what they're indicative of. Didn't have any discussion with me why I even needed an antibiotic. Just general umbrella to brush me off. It's just like a brush off of, it's a UA, a UTI. So I'm going to give you some antibiotics and whatever. Then you take the intravenously here, and then you go home, and that's it. And you follow up with a urologist. He's like, you really need to go to private practice to follow up with the specialists. And I'm like, right, yeah, I get that. So, but the thing is that, and I told him, the gynecological person I'd gone to who did the biopsy when it originally happened, causing almost like a necrotic tissue look. I didn't get results or words from him as to what it was, but I just know that event happened. And he said, well, I can't get NYU's results. He said, we're a different health system. I'm like, right, got that. I didn't get the results either. I'm just letting you know that this happened once before. They gave me a cream and an antibiotic and then sent me on my way, but now it's back again. I don't know why. And it's really concerning me that it keeps reoccurring. But again, there's this lack of bedside manner and interaction to get one healthy, which is really frustrating on my part. So then I get my discharge papers. I'm looking through the papers. I'm curious hematologically, so I can call Dr. Trotta and see and have a discussion with her, since she seems to be the only adept repeat performance I've had amongst the bunch of inapt performers. And the nurse is telling me, and the nurse, let me tell you something, the two nurses had really nice bedside manner. One of them wasn't feeling well. He stuck me and it really hurt, but I was trying to whatever but for the most part, he was trying to convince me this new My Chart thing online. I'm like, I don't have a computer. He's like, do it on your phone. I'm like, I'm not a big technology person. I'm just not. I'm like, it's not something I'll do. I like paper. So, anyhow, so I didn't, when it printed out, I even went back to the nurse. I said, I know you're not feeling well. I said, neither am I. I said, but I really need, if you would. I said, I looked and it did not print out my blood results. And I'm ongoing patient with Dr. Trotta, who's from here. I said, and I would really like to have that index so I can look for myself, and then I can have an intellectual conversation with her if possible. So he said that they did something with the printers and the print system, that now he, from the emergency room, if it didn't print, and when I look on this, it says comprehensive metabolic panel, it reads abnormal. Urinalysis with microscopic, abnormal. It says blood smear microscopic, abnormal. Urine culture CBC and differential narrative. It says patient unavailable. Lactic acid, patient unavailable. HGC quantitative, patient unavailable. Procalcitonin, patient unavailable. Autodiff, glomerular filtration rate, GFR, all of that's unavailable to me. So now I can't even see what my own results are. They're not giving me any information. And now I'm concerned again. So I'm asking this nurse, he can pull it up. He showed me that they did CBC, and he's showing me the numbers. He says that my CBC was in the range of 13, because when I originally went to St. Francis in July, it was 5.9, and now it's up to 13. So not only am I holding according to their records, which I have no way of independently verifying, just have to take their word for it. It looks as though I'm holding the blood volume at a 13. So it's within the range of 11 to 15, which is what the index says on Google when I try to cross-reference it for my own edification. So then I come home, I'm exhausted. Whatever was in the IV bag knocked me out. I just needed a little bit to recover. And I got back up, and I went to pick up my son from school. We stopped at the pharmacy. Now I get to the pharmacy, and I pick up the prescription bottle. And on the prescription bottle of antibiotics, it says take 1 tablet in the AM and 1 tablet in the PM for 10 days. So 10 in the morning, 10 in the evening. That would be quantity 20. But written by prescription from this doctor in the ER room, the quantity was 10. I didn't realize it while I was there. I assumed the pharmacist would have picked up on it, being that it's PO, 1 in the morning, 1 in the afternoon. And even though the doctor got the quantity wrong, isn't that where the level of pharmaceutical rep comes in? So I pay for it. I leave with my son. We walk home. I'm still just not right. I just don't feel right. So I go to, and I had asked the pharmacist, I said, no, I just left the hospital. I got intravenous antibiotics. I was like, do I start taking this immediately, or do I wait till tomorrow before I start to take it? She says, no, you take it immediately. I'm like, all right. So I came home. and I went to go take them, and then I realized when I opened it that there was not enough pills to, something was wrong. It didn't seem like it was going to be 1 in the morning, 1 in the afternoon. It just looked like the wrong quantity. So I counted it out. Again, I'm so mentally cloudy and foggy. It's like it's like a brain fog, and I feel like it's swimming in congestion in the brain, like a brain fog. And now I have to try to like compensate or overcompensate for other people who have studied this stuff and have people's lives in their hands daily. And now I'm not being treated correctly. It's putting my life in jeopardy. It's now become a chronic, long issue. And I'm dependent on this profession that's in some kind of malformation or malperformance. So I figure out, even though it took me a minute because I'm not as clear as I should be, that that the quantity was off. So I had to walk myself back up to the pharmacy. I had to explain to the pharmacist what she had missed. She was just like, "Oh yeah, that should have been." And then she called over to the hospital. They were able to fix it. Long story short, I got it. I came back home. And so now I'll start this treatment. But it is just, whatever it is that I have, it's affecting my, at times, it's affecting my cognitive skills, where I feel like it's like swimming through gelatin. And then I have to perform at this high performance level just to try to pull together my symptomatic, like what I'm going through internally, while I'm still able to at least have that function. It feels like an acid cook. I even said to the mildly arrogant emergency room doctor, I'm like, I was like, I don't know if you've ever heard of this. I was like, but this is big somewhere in the world. They have fish and they put lemon on it and they cook the fish in lemon. I know it's Peruvian. I was like, they call it ceviche. I was like, that's what I feel like the perineum is at the moment. He's like, well, that's because you have a uric acid and it's really strong. And I'm like, exactly. I was like, but for me, it's at a level that's not how it normally is. It's indicative of something else being wrong, and I don't know what or what from. And he's like, I am not a urologist. He's like, and I'm going to have to. So in the paperwork, they recommended a St. Francis urologist. Dr. Trotta had recommended one as well. Both of those doctors, the one that's in here, I called immediately, tried to book out an appointment while I had a moment of clarity. While I was waiting for Lewis. They don't take my insurance. So now I have to go outside of Catholic Health Systems network to try to find a urologist. The last time I tried to find a urologist by calling the health insurance company, they gave me a male sexual dysfunction doctor. So I waited all that time to get through. Now, again, I'm already at a neurological, slowdown with whatever this escalating health issue is, as my health is deteriorating. And now to have to, go through all of these really inefficient steps in order to rectify issues that should be on some system that just fires off like a fine-tuned machine. I'm in the effing hospital. You have renal specialists that perform surgery somewhere. You can't get them to come to the bed for 5 minutes? It's absolutely ridiculous. So now I have to wait for my mental clarity to come back, because it seems like there's altering times. I don't know if it's like a septic issue of when I'm able to perform at a little more high performance and really have clarity, and now being like this real, it it's just, I heard Lou put on said guru in the car on the way there this morning, which I always have an open heart and an open ear, and I always try to look for the hidden pearls of wisdom, or gems of wisdom, or whatever, um, across platforms. And so he said something about being in a boat, but being tied to the pier and still rowing. You're not going to get anywhere, but it does make for very strong arm exercises. I'm like, my last name in this medical performance is Roe, Roe. And then it's MER in some places it's MAR, some places it's MER for the C. So I'm just like, I really just feel like I'm rowing in place at this point. And it's not getting any better. I know other people have this issue. I mean, why I have to keep living through this malperformance as my health deteriorates and gets worse, and why other people who have already gone through this, why it wasn't rectified originally. I mean, this is not like they have on TV that the old apparent who would be inheritant of something is now in an actuality of fulfilling that destiny. He has behind him something apparent, wherever that means. What I don't understand is being in some worldly whatever of having an apparent somewhere on a field, how this field could be so compromised and my person be so harmed in the center of all of this, um, and not knowing how to make it any better for myself so other people don't have to go through this in this, I mean, like, so I don't know. So now I have to try, when I get a little more clarity, to call the insurance a second time and ask for urology, but this time now specify I need female urology. I didn't even realize that there was a difference when you call the health insurance company to let the insurance carrier rep know, so they guide. I mean, like, there's so much inefficiency in every step of this process. It's so frustrating. And then there's other things that go into this, between adversity, diversity, and all I keep seeing from my one situation is all these adverse effects of all this diversity and exponential problems, like a powder keg, and sparks are going off, and it's just like, so anyway, so I listened to some, then on the way home I just wanted quiet after the intravenous antibiotics. I just wanted quiet in the car. I was asking Lou to just, please, could we just sit quietly? I need to just pull myself together for whatever I just went through and put together a course of action. And he's saying to me, he's like, no, no, I want to listen to Joe Rogan and some other Dr. Joe, some Dr. CD addiction. I'm just like, could we just silence? I mean, like, is that just one car ride? No, can we do silence? Apparently, in 70-year-old whatever, no, he can't. So here I am. Anyhow, um, So that's field observation for my own whatever. It's star 1978, star 8378, Nicole Cattaruzza. I did tell Benjamin last night while he was here. I let the cat out of the bag. I'm like, Ben, and Ashley was here as his God's witness. I said, Benjamin, I was like, I did work at the Imperial Manor. I was like, once the circus pulled out, they had a retirement party, and I waitressed some tables. I'm just saying, there's somewhere in the world, there's a man who had triplets, and he knows who he is. So, anyhow, I did just pass that little bit of knowledge along. I also showed Ben the bell for the first public school I ever attended, which says West Troy, which Nucci now goes to. And he goes, I don't really see what the point is, Mom. And I was like, I know you don't. But in the Greek world, there is a Troy, there is a Sparta, there is a Helen of Troy. I'm just saying, Ben. It's a Greek thing. And he's like, it's important somewhere.